This is Histories and Mysteries. I'm Ashley.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Rochelle.
And on this week's episode, Ashley is going to start her series on the Josh Duggar case.
Yes.
And then Rochelle is going to be maybe finishing her Dear David series.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I'm really excited to hear what happens on this Dear David thing. And after hearing last week, I'm super stoked for the movie that's going to come out. It's going to be freaky as hell.
Right?
I hope it's good. I hope it's well done.
Yeah,
Mhm.
me too. Me too. So I decided to dive into the Josh Duggar case. I regret it a little bit, but here we are.
That's a wild fucking family
It's
to begin with.
insane.
Did you guys ever watch their show?
No, I couldn't. Like, I can't.
We used to watch it
Mhm.
all the time.
It
And
made me
like,
mad.
yeah, honestly, he always seemed creepy to me. And he
Josh?
just always seemed off.
The whole family
Uh-huh.
is fucking creepy. Sorry to the
Yeah.
like normal ones, but like that whole dynamic is
Well, we're gonna go over some of the things they believe. So it's very interesting. Yeah, no, just my mom loved these
Yeah.
ones. All the shows that they had. They started out like 17 kids and counting.
how many kids do they have now? Like 21 kids or 19? Holy shit.
They have 19 of their own, and they have custody of like one of their relatives' kids or whatever. And Josh already has 7 kids of his own, so he's on his way. So I got a lot of information from all over the place. One was from an article by John Shore called "Welcome to the Duggars' World of Independent Fundamental Baptists." The Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette had a lot of information. There's this podcast called the Sojo Files, SOJO, and I'm going to listen to them more for next week's episode because she went to the trial and sat in each day and took notes.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, but it's obviously very long. There were 6 days of trial, so she has like 6 episodes on it. Sometimes they have a part 2. So I haven't gotten all the way through the trial yet. It ended today, so jury is in deliberation now. So we'll see. I don't know what happened in the trial yet. So all of this stuff is from research prior to trial. So we'll see if anything new comes out in the trials. And then Washington Post, USA Today, Wikipedia, and a really informative People magazine article. So, all right. So by now, everyone has heard of the Duggars, as we have just talked about. We knew who they were. Some of us watched it. Some of us didn't. But they had that show called 19 Kids and Counting. It started in 2008 as 17 Kids and Counting. And it was finally canceled in 2015 when they had 19. So they are extremely strict, what they call independent fundamental Baptist Christians. So I kind of looked into that a little bit. It's not your typical Baptist church. They believed that the Baptist church was getting a little too modern, a little too out there with their views.
Oh, dear.
So, like that birth control and women being able to, live their lives.
Wear pants.
Yep, that too.
Yeah, exactly.
So they broke off and made their own church. And there's actually quite a few of these churches around. It's not like just the Duggars. There's quite a few of them. And apparently, obviously, they don't believe in birth control. They believe that God will give them however many kids he sees fit. So here we are at 19.
Interesting.
They also named all of their kids starting with the letter J. So their parents are Jim Bob, and Michelle. So I guess fuck Michelle because they went with J for the kids.
Giselle.
Yeah, Giselle. And they married on July 21st, 1984, and they popped out their first baby, Josh, in 1988. They had their last child, Josie, in 2009. So if we math real quick, that's a span of 11 years. In these 11 years, she had 2 sets of twins. So we say safely that each kid took about 9 months to cook. She was pregnant for 12.75 years consecutively, which obviously means not all went to 9 months. But she was basically pregnant for 11 years straight.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm still like struggling to decide if I ever want to be pregnant for like the normal amount of time.
Yeah, just like one time. All right, so real quick, I'm going to name their kids. Josh, and then
Wait, Ashley.
yes.
You have to sing it to the tune of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. No, like Dasher.
Joshua and twins, Jana, John, David, Jill and Jessa, Ginger with a J, and Joseph, Josiah, Joanna, twins, Jedediah and Jeremiah. All right, everybody hates that.
Yes.
Jason, James, Justin, Jackson, Johanna, Jennifer, Jordan, and Josie. And Jim Bob made his money in real estate. He even dabbled in politics. He served 2 terms in the Arkansas House of Representatives. He also unsuccessfully ran for the U.S. Senate, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's talk about how these kids grew up. So independent Baptists, or AKA independent fundamentalist Baptists, believe, and I'm just going to read this sentence straight from Wikipedia. So the modern independent Baptist tradition began in the late 19th and early 20th centuries among local denominational Baptist congregations whose members were concerned about the advancement of modernism, and liberalism into national Baptist denominations and conventions in the United States and the United Kingdom. So they were just getting a little too liberal for them. They believe that men alone are suited to be the head of the home and the church. For a woman to be pleasing God, she must always and in all things remain perfectly submissive, first to her father and then to her husband. The primary function of a woman is to have children who then become her mission field.
Literally, fuck all of that.
Right? And
Yep.
I just like how so many of these laws are against women. So,
yeah, my husband will be submissive to me. Thank you.
Right? It is sinful for a woman to dress in any way that might cause a man to spiritually stumble by having lustful thoughts. Human life begins at conception, so every abortion without exception is murder. And we'll get back to that one because that comes and bites Jim Bob in the butt. Homosexuals are evil perverts who despise God and should be kept away from society generally and children especially. There is no appreciable moral distinction between homosexuality, bestiality, incest, child molestation, or rape, which also comes back to bite Jim Bob in the ass. This next one was so shocking to me that I had to double look it up from a couple different sources, and I found it a couple different times. Black people bear the mark of Cain and so are cursed. So they believe all Black people are cursed.
What?
Yeah. Christians are called to remain steadfastly separate from the world and its sinful practices and temptations, such as movies, dancing, and any music with an additive rock beat.
I'm sorry, is this Footloose? Like, what the fuck?
Right? Is Kevin Bacon out here dancing? Educating children at home or in IFB K-12 schools is necessary in order to protect them from the knowledge and ways of a fallen and corrupt world. IFBs also generally believe that the will of a child must be broken before it ever has a chance to develop. A fussy or crying baby is exerting a selfish will. That will needs to be eliminated, since wherever human will is, God's will cannot be. So, To Train Up a Child is a book that a fundamentalist Christian minister, Michael Pearl, and his wife, Debbie, wrote. And it's very popular within the IFB community. And it's this guide to, quote, constantly rewarding every transgression with a switching, has sold over 670,000 copies in the IFB church. Here are some quotes from this book. These truths of this book are the same principles the Amish use to train their stubborn mules, the same technique God uses to train his children. If you have to sit on him to spank him, then do not hesitate and hold him there until he is surrendered. Prove that you are bigger, tougher, more patiently enduring, and are unmoved by his wailing. Defeat him totally. Accept no conditions for surrender, no compromise. You are to rule over him as a benevolent sovereign. Your word is final.
So they're beating their children into submission to make them behave better?
Yep.
Yep.
Fascinating.
Yeah, because that always doesn't turn out in fucking fucked up
Right?
kids, as we will see.
Exactly. It says, if God's love is expressed by the whippings he gives, then can we not love our children enough to chasten them onto holiness? I have heard a rebellious teenager say, if they only loved me enough to whip me. I don't think that's true.
Okay, like, in what world is God, who's supposed to like love everybody, just like whipping the shit out of his followers?
Right? But what of a grouch who would rather complain than sleep? Get tough, be firm with him, never put him down, and then allow him to get up. If after putting him down, you remember he just woke up, do not reward his complaining by allowing him to get up. For the sake of consistency and training, you must follow through. He may not be able to sleep, but he can be trained to lie there quietly. He will very quickly come to know that anytime he is laid down, there is no alternative but to stay put. To get up is to be on the firing line and get switched back down. This is, I only have a couple more quotes from this book, but they get progressively worse. She then administers to a 3-year-old about 10 slow, patient licks on his bare legs. He cries in pain. If he continues to show defiance by jerking around and defending himself or by expressing anger, then she will wait a moment and again lecture him and again spank him. When it is obvious he is totally broken, she will hand him the rag and very calmly say, Johnny, clean up your mess.
I hate everything about this.
Yes, me fucking too. On the bare legs or bottoms, switch him 8 or 10 licks. Then, while waiting for the pain to subside, speak calm words of rebuke. If the crying turns to a true, wounded, submissive whimper, you have conquered. He has submitted his will. If the crying is still defiant, protesting, and other than a response to pain, spank him again. And this one, I think, is particularly the worst one. One particularly painful experience of nursing mothers is the biting baby. My wife did not waste time in finding a cure. When the baby bit, she would pull the baby's hair. And then it says in parentheses, an alternative has to be sought for bald-headed babies.
It's all just like super awful. And
awful.
How are these people not like being charged for child abuse?
I know. I think because it's too, they don't talk about it outside the community. You know what I mean? So in addition to all these horrific things, the Duggars also practice blanket theory, which is its own hellhole. Basically, you put a baby on a blanket, and if they try and get off the blanket, you smack them, and you continue to do that until they learn not to get off the blanket. They obviously believed in chaperone courtships, or what they call dating with a purpose.
It was the most stupid crap I have ever seen on TV in my life.
You watched their kind of chaperone courtships?
Yes. And it was so stupid because a man had to be present at all times.
So stupid. We're not in the 1700s anymore, people. So they also believe that seeing a thigh was too sexual, and therefore they would avoid the beaches and swimming pools. So you create this environment where you basically get beaten into submission as a child, right? You are not allowed to be sexual in any way, shape, or form. And not that I am in any way condoning what Josh Duggar does, because what he does is awful. This is his environment, right? So let's get into this shit show. It's kind of confusing because most of this came out years after the fact. But an anonymous tip to the child abuse hotline in 2006 is kind of when everything hit the fan. So in December 2006, this was before their show started. So they weren't yet like super famous, but they had been on a couple other shows just because they have so many fucking kids. And And they were supposed to appear on the Oprah Winfrey Show. But the Harpo Studios, which produces Oprah, received an email saying, before you air the Duggar family from Arkansas, you need to know the truth. They are not what they seem to be. Josh has, they redacted his name because at the time he was a minor. He was only 14 or 15. So there's a lot of like redacted names in here to protect the minors, but it's Josh. Has molested redacted while redacted were sleeping, and the parents have been hiding this secret for a long time. Jim Bob lies to his church and his friends to make him look good. At this moment, he is in trouble with the church for lying about redacted, Josh, and things that concern the way the church members reacted. I think you should know the truth before they make a complete fool of you and your show. They have been on TV before and come across as a perfect family, which couldn't be further from the truth. The jump from show to receive gifts from their family and to make them look really good too. Please consider this and confront them about their secrets. So Oprah ain't no dummy, and she canceled that appearance immediately. And the Harpo Studios turned this letter over to Child Services, as they should. And this is what launches the very first investigation into Josh.
Did it say who the letter was from?
No, and we don't really ever find out. It was anonymous. So we find out how they got the information, but we don't find out who it was. So the police after this start to interview the family and acquaintances of the family, promising that all of this would remain confidential. But the Duggar family at this time were kind of well known, so it didn't really stay that way. The police did redact all the names, especially because, again, like I said, we're talking about all minors here, but it's kind of easy to figure out who they're talking about. And this report was released to In Touch magazine. I think they're the ones that like broke the report, based on the Freedom of Information Act. Do you guys know what that is?
No.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you guys had something similar in Canada, but
We might. I don't know.
okay. In America, anybody has the right to obtain information or files from the federal government. Aside from things, there's like a few stipulations to it. So, obviously like anything that would be national security risk, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, we do. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said no, but we definitely do.
Okay. So that's how this report, because there was kind of like people talking about it hush hush, like on message boards and like stuff like that. So the magazine was like, hey, let's look into this. They got this report, which they're legally able to do. The police department redacted the minor names, so they were in the right, but Jim Bob did still try to sue, but he didn't win. Anywho, so here's the police report interview. And I want to, say that there's a lot of redacted in here. And I kept it in there because I don't know like the legal ramifications. So I just was like, I'll just be safe. But you can tell when they're talking about Josh compared to when they're talking about like what he did to his sisters. Now, I don't know which sisters, but you can tell which ones when they're talking about Josh, when they're talking about the victim. So I also want to do a trigger warning here because we do talk about some inappropriate child things.
Did we ever find out who which sister it was or no?
Yeah, it's out there. There's four of the sisters he did this to. So they're out, and I think 2 of them testified in court. I can't remember. Yeah, and I can't remember. I know one of them is completely estranged from the family. She doesn't talk to them at all. All right. So December 12th, 2006, James and Michelle Duggar were interviewed at the Children's Safety Center in Springdale, Arkansas. The Duggars had brought their children to the safety center to be interviewed in response to an allegation that had been received by the Arkansas State Police Child Abuse Hotline. The allegation was in regard to one of their children. James said that in March of 2002, redacted, Josh, came to see him very upset and crying. James said that, I'm just going to say Josh. But I don't know the victims. I don't know who the victims are, like their names. So James said that Josh told him that they had been sneaking into Redacted's room at night and had been touching Redacted on the breast and vaginal areas while they were sleeping. Josh told James that this had occurred 4 to 5 times and occurred once as Redacted was sleeping on the couch. Apparently, the girls had always been asleep when this was happening. And James said that James is Jim Bob, for anybody who didn't. James is the dad, Jim Bob. James said that when he had later told the girls what had happened, one of the girls, Redacted, remembered a time when she had woken up and Josh was taking her blanket away, but she didn't remember anything else. James said that in July of 2002, Josh admitted to him that one night, as a female friend of the family's was sleeping over, he had gone to the couch where she was sleeping and had fondled her breasts as she slept.
Ew.
This girl was later identified by James as Redacted. James said that they disciplined Josh after this incident. James said that about 9 months later, in March 2003, so this discipline was just whatever they did. Like, it wasn't anything like specific or like cops or anything like that. So about 9 months later, in March 2003, James said that Josh was reading to his 5-year-old sister as she was sitting on his lap, and he had touched her breast and vaginal area. James said that Josh ran out of the room, called to him, and told him what he had done. James also said that sometime during this time frame, his daughter had been standing in the laundry room, and Josh had put his hands under her dress. James said that after these incidences, he had met with the elders of his church and told them what was going on. James said they all agreed that Josh needed to be put into a treatment program. So James said one of the elders need to go to treatment program. So James said that one of the elders was a chaplain at the Piney Ridge program at Vista Hospital. When I say what they did was right, I think they took the right steps, but not in the right way, such as sending him to this treatment center. And I'll talk about why in a second.
Or, contacting the police.
They do. We'll get there.
Okay.
He said that they had concerns about the program at Piney Ridge because they thought that Josh might be exposed to other offenders and other things that they did not want him to be exposed to. James said that one of the other elders was an ex-prison guard and told him that some of the programs for juveniles were finishing schools where juveniles basically learned how to offend from other offenders, which that happens, right? Like in juvie or in prison, a lot of times they go there and they hone in on whatever crime their craft is. However, this Piney Ridge was a hospital, it was a psychiatric treatment center for kids that had these sexual issues. Mm-hmm. So it's not like he was going with like a bunch of like hardened criminals, right?
Yeah, because that's what happened with John Dillinger, right?
Right. Yeah.
He went to prison and then he honed in on robberies and stuff. So
yeah. So James said that they found out about a Christian program in Little Rock that they felt more comfortable with. He said that he couldn't remember the name of the program, but that it was conducted by a Christian ministry in the old VA hospital in Little Rock. And the man who ran it was Harold Walker, who was a friend of the family. James said that he thought the program was affiliated with the Little Rock Police Department since they had a station in the same building. James said that the program consisted of hard physical work and counseling. He said that when Josh was in the program from March 17th, or he said that Josh was in the program from March 17th, 2003 until July 17th, 2003, so 90 days. And we'll talk a little bit about why this program is not good. So
okay.
James and Michelle said that they were both comfortable that nothing had occurred since Josh went through the programs in Little Rock. They both felt that Josh no longer had any problems and all of this had been resolved. He had apologized to all of the girls in the family and they had forgiven him like they had a choice. That I added in there.
They would have been beaten.
Well, and they're the females in the family. They have to be submissive to Josh, right?
Mm-hmm.
James said that several members of the church were aware of the situation and had even been supportive of the family. The investigator here, asked the Duggars if they knew how this had come up at this time. They said at the time these things occurred, a family friend who was aware of what happened had written it down in a letter, what he knew of Josh's actions with Redacted. And that letter had been placed in a book and subsequently had been forgotten about. Just recently, the book had been loaned out to someone else with the letter in it, and the person who discovered the letter was the one who wrote to, well, it says called into the hotline, but I think it was the one that wrote to Oprah.
Interesting.
The Duggars, or no, I'm sorry. They were the ones that Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Take that out. I just got confused for a second with the timeline. There's so much that happens. So the Duggars declined to identify who wrote the letter or who found it. The officers asked Duggars if any of this had been reported to the police, and James said that he had. He and Josh had spoken to a state trooper after Josh had returned from the program in Little Rock. James said that he knew Corporal Hutchins with the Arkansas State Police. James said he knew Hutchins because he used to be a car dealer, and Corporal Hutchins was the state trooper who inspected the car dealers. James said that after Josh returned from Little Rock, he and the church elders decided to contact the police about Josh. James said that one of the church elders, he and Josh, had gone to Corporal Hutchins' office at the state police headquarters and admitted what he had done. James said that Corporal Hutchins had given Josh a very stern talk about what might happen to him if he continued such behavior. He said that Corporal Hutchins had told him that since he had already put Josh through the treatment program, that there was nothing left to do.
Okay, that also reminds me of John Dillinger. Remember when the sheriff gave him a stern talking to
Yeah.
not to do that again?
You're right.
Oh boy.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. Let's start with good old Corporal Hutchins, because for me, this is where I'm like, okay, well, the family actually tried to do the right thing and it was bad. Well, apparently Hutchins has recently done an interview saying that Josh only confessed to molesting one sister and not the other three plus the family friend. He said that had he known it was more than one, he would have reported it. Mind you, they are mandated reporters, so he was wrong either way. But Jim Bob said that Josh had confessed everything, not just the one. But 3 people were in that room, right? So the church elder, Jim Bob, and Josh. And the church elder, who doesn't want to be identified, says that he was there and Josh did tell everything in detail. And he said that he thought it was weird because the police officer didn't even pull out a piece of paper. I remember thinking it's really odd. There was a desk in the room along with some chairs. The police corporal told Josh that since you're from a good family, have a good support group and good friends, he wasn't going to go any further, the witness said. He did say that if you ever do this again, you'll be taken away or something like that. He definitely didn't raise his voice. He was calm and serious. He repeated that if you ever do this again, you'll be taken away.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
So I have not been following along with the case because I knew you were going to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
So did he only do this stuff when he was younger, or did he do it when he was older too?
Both.
Okay.
Not as bad when he's older, but
Yeah.
We'll get into that. We're not done with his crimes.
All right.
So, Hutchins told the magazine, In Touch magazine, that I did what I thought was right, and obviously it wasn't. Hutchins is quoted in Touch saying, if I had to do it over again, I would have told him immediately I'm going to call the hotline and contacted the trooper that worked with those cases and had a full report made. I thought I could handle it myself. When the Arkansas Gazette tried to reach out to Hutchins for an interview following the above interview, it was denied by the Arkansas Correctional Facility because Hutchins is in jail for 56 years for child pornography.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Oh.
So I do want to put in here, I put that the Arkansas Department of Correction denied all media requests for interviews with inmate Joseph Hutchins. A department statement said, we are very concerned about the means used by In Touch Weekly to obtain access to our inmate in our custody. We are therefore investigating what we and the inmate believe to be a serious case of misrepresentation. But In Touch said the interview with Joseph Hutchins was obtained with the approval of the Arkansas Department of Correction. As In Touch has stated in print, the interview was conducted by a local law firm, and Hutchins was promised nothing in return for his cooperation. Both he and the Arkansas Department of Corrections were told that he was being questioned by the law firm for a client that was conducting an investigation. He agreed to be interviewed and have the interview recorded. Hutchins' recollection about what he was told by Jim Bob and Josh Duggar ended up contradicting what Jim Bob told the Springdale police in 2006, according to their report. So it's basically a bunch of he said, she said, because I don't think we can necessarily fully trust that other witness that was there because they're an elder of that church. So they have their own agenda. But also Hutchins is also in jail for child pornography. So I can see him being more lenient to someone who was doing similar crimes as him, right? So this treatment center that he had supposedly been sent to has been discovered to be the Institute and Basic Life Principles, which was owned by a Duggar friend, Bill Gothard. So the space for this program had just been purchased and Bill was doing some renovation on it. He said that once it was finished, it would be used for court-referred youth offenders in the organization's Bible-based rehabilitation program. But guess what, guys?
What?
In 2014,
Bill Gothard got charged for child pornography or whatever.
not child, but sexual harassing and molestation.
Oh my goodness.
So in 2014, he stepped down from his organization after allegations of sexually harassment and molestation. In 2016, a lawsuit was filed against him, but several of his victims, but the case was dismissed in 2018 due to the statute of limitations.
Oh my goodness.
34 women have claimed harassment to him. They were volunteers and workers of the church.
Right.
Yeah. So if we fast forward to December of 2007, this is right after the police had conducted their interviews on the molestation that had happened in 2002. Everything was dropped because, again, the statute of limitations was up. So basically, fuck the victims. So
yeah.
The Duggar sisters, the friends of the family, they never really got any justice for that.
Because people weren't on top of their shit.
Yep. So, fun fact. In 2002, when Jib Bob was running for U.S. Senate, one of his political views was that rape and incest should be treated as capital crime and receive the death penalty.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So.
But he couldn't even report his son to the police right away.
Yep. So now next week, Merry Christmas, and I will be talking about basically kind of what happens after this came out and what has happened recently, and possibly get into the trials depending on how long it is. Maybe we'll have to push it to I think we should be able to get to all that, but yeah. So that's what I have for now.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. For that awfulness.
Awful story.
All right, now let's hear the rest of this Dear David case, because I am very excited and I really want to get away from child pornography and molestation.
Yes. Bring on the spooky creepy.
Yeah.
All right. So if you remember last time we left off, he was just about to go to Japan.
Ooh.
So the last tweet before that is, it makes me feel like I'm not going through this alone. See you in a couple weeks. So Friday, September 29th, 2017, we are in Japan. I bought a votive tablet at the shrine I'm at in Japan, he says. And it says, please protect my cats while I'm away from home.
Aww.
Tuesday, October 3rd, it's my last full day in Japan. The past couple of weeks have been pretty peaceful. I have people taking care of the cats, and they say they've been doing fine. This morning, I went for a walk around Sapporo. I never really plan my vacations. I like to wander a lot and see what I find. I came across this statue in a park. I couldn't find out any real information about it online, but it was weird and pretty. It's just like a pillar.
Oh, that looks creepy to me.
Yeah, that was kind of creepy.
And it's got like a bunch of human-like things climbing up towards another human-like thing.
Great description.
I was taking pictures of it from different angles since it's cylindrical. I moved around to one side and I almost dropped my phone at what I saw.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. It felt too similar to be a coincidence. I felt dizzy staring up at it. This kid with a dented head. So the like human figure at the top is like a mother is holding a baby that has like a dented in head.
Oh my gosh.
Awful.
I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe this is nothing. Doesn't feel like nothing.
It's not nothing.
Anyways, I have to pack for my flight home in the morning. It'll be good to see the cats again, at least. Oh, you'll like this. Ashley's picture of his face.
Oh, he's pretty.
Thursday, October 5th, 2017. I made it home safely. The cats are fine, if a little more talkative than usual.
Oh, that's a pretty kitty. It's like a calico and it's got pink nose.
It's not a calico.
Yeah, it is.
Calicos are orange.
He's got orange
No,
and brown in him.
calicos are multicolored.
Yeah, Gracie's a
Oh.
calico.
Saturday, October 14th. Weird things have been happening with the electricity in my apartment this week. First, 2 bulbs have burned out in the hallway in less than a week. At this point, I've just left it alone again rather than get a ladder. But the strangest thing has to do with the backlight on my TV. It's an LED strip that plugs into the TV itself via USB. Sorry, guys, I'm still getting over pneumonia at the moment.
Oh no.
So if I break out in a coughing fit.
Yeah, Rochelle sent us a picture last week of her in the hospital about died. I was like, oh my God, are you okay? It was pneumonia. Poor thing.
The TV has to be on in order for the backlight to be on. But last night, the backlight was flickering on and off by itself.
Ew.
I noticed it just sometime before dawn when I woke up and went into the kitchen to get some water. I'd barely gotten back into bed again when I saw a faint light come on in the living room.
Nope.
After a few seconds, it went dark again. I went back into the living room and stood there watching the backlight go on and off for at least a few minutes. It was bizarre.
I would have ran so far away from that house.
Eventually it stopped and now the backlight doesn't work at all. It's a couple months old, so it shouldn't be dead already. Anyways, I couldn't get back to sleep, so I went to the diner near my apartment. It was the only thing open at 4 a.m. I had eggs over easy with ham. It was too
Yum.
much. It was too much ham, but the eggs were pretty good.
Nice detail.
I would have destroyed that ham.
I know. Why? I don't think there's too much ham.
Right?
When I got back home, the sun was starting to come up, so I figured I might as well shower and go into work early. I showered and brushed my teeth, then headed into the bedroom to get dressed. As I passed the front door, I thought I heard a faint scratching sound from the other side.
Yuck.
It was so soft. I wasn't sure it had really happened. I went over the door. I went over the door. That is a typo on his part. But I was too scared to look through the peephole. I couldn't bring myself to actually put my face that close to the sound, so I opted to take a photo through the peephole instead.
No.
Since there's a skylight just outside my door, the hall was awash in a faint yellow-green light. I snapped a couple photos. At first, the pictures didn't seem like anything, just blurry nothingness. But as I analyzed it and started noticing things, part of a face, an ear, and an eye staring right back at me.
No. Also, Rochelle, the way you just took your shirt off was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
It's a onesie.
Oh, okay. She's got a shirt on
Right?
underneath, everyone. But she pulled it down like off her shoulders and then down her arm and like down her waist. I thought it was just a shirt.
I think it's maybe time to get someone else involved. It's obvious this isn't going to stop until I do something. I'm just not sure what it is yet. I'll let you all know when I figure it out. And then he did. Oh, so he tried to ew. So he draws out what it looks like, and it looks like that baby from the statue.
It does. Ew.
That's weird. So this is a little while later, October 26th. Sorry for the radio silence the past couple weeks. First, I had a friend come over to do some cleaning stuff. She did the whole apartment and the hallway. A lot of self-proclaimed professional mediums have reached out, plus about a dozen ghost hunter TV shows. I declined them all because I don't really want strangers in my house sensationalizing what's going on. So instead, I had a friend come over and cleanse the place. And for about a week or so, it seemed like it worked. Things appeared to go back to normal. The cats weren't gathering at the door anymore. I stopped having dreams. It was starting to seem like it was over. Then, one morning last week, I was walking to work and passed the shuttered warehouse as usual. This time, all the metal doors were wide open, sunlight pouring in. The warehouse was still mostly empty, except for one thing. There was a hearse parked near the back wall.
Oh.
I hate that.
The warehouse had been closed for over 2 months. I have no idea why it was open that day. Nobody was around. It was weird, but I tried not to think about it. It's not all that strange to see a hearse, I guess. Like they have to park somewhere.
Yeah.
I tried to put it out of my mind, and the next several days were uneventful. But something else happened last night. It was around 11 or so, and I was watching TV on the couch. I went into the dining room to get a drink from the fridge and noticed both the cats sitting by the far window, staring at it. The window looks out onto the roof of a business next door. I glanced at the window but didn't see anything. I figured that maybe there was a mouse in the wall or something. I shrugged, grabbed a beer from the fridge. As I went into the kitchen to get a bottle opener, I noticed something. There's a window in the kitchen which looks out onto the same roof, and someone was standing on the roof staring at me. I immediately ducked down. I reached up, flicked off the light switch. I peered over the windowsill but couldn't see much. My phone was in my pocket, so I grabbed it and took a photo. It was blurry and dark, but I swear someone was out there.
At this point, why would you think it's anything other than David? Like, he's like, oh, I just figured it was a mouse. Like, why would you not just assume at this point?
I don't know. I tried to take a better photo, but the figure disappeared. I closed all the blinds and made sure the door was locked, and then drank like 5 more beers until I was too drunk to be scared. But now I feel like I'm back at square one. I'm sure it was him. He's not going away. I don't know what to do. November 6th. It's been about 4 months since the first time I dreamed of David. This might be long, but stick with me. Last night I dreamed about him again. It was almost exactly the same as the first time I saw him. In the dream, I saw him in the chair again. I don't have the green chair in my room anymore. This time it was the recliner I've had for years. He was staring right at me, just like the first time. Again, I felt paralyzed and could barely move. But this time something was different. I still felt mostly immobile, but could squirm just a bit. I felt more alert. I could move my hands somewhat. He glared at me, and I dreaded what I knew was coming. He was going to get out of the chair and come towards me like before.
Oh, no, thank you.
I had to do something. I keep my phone next to me on the bed, and I somehow managed to get a hold of it. I thought, if David's going to kill me, maybe I can at least get evidence on my phone. I started snapping pictures in the dark. Sure enough, he crawled down off the chair, began shuffling toward me. He moved slowly, like it was a struggle for him. I felt terrified, but I kept taking photos. David limped closer to me, never taking his eyes off me. Soon I was face to face with him.
Ew.
He started muttering something too. Too quiet to understand. I watched as his eyes rolled back in his head until they were all white. I tried to writhe away from him, but I could barely move. I stared in horror as he began crawling onto my bed, still murmuring something. And that's when I woke up. Same as before. Broad daylight, no trace of David anywhere. It's almost routine now, but it was a dream after all. So I got up and went to work. But it was a dream after all, so I got up went to work. And after a while, the stress of the dream melted away. I wasn't even going to write about this since it wouldn't be really new information. But tonight I noticed something that petrified me. I went into my phone to find a picture from a couple days ago and saw dozens of pitch black photos in my camera roll, all from last night. It's better just to show you, turn up your brightness because they're pretty dark. No! No! Ew! Ew! Ew, it's David!
Ugh.
Oh, it is. It's a really clear picture of David sitting on the chair.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that.
And like all of them are like that.
Ugh.
Oh, man. Usually I can come up with some excuse for what's happening, but I have no logical explanation for this. So now I'm sitting here on my couch freaking out. I certainly won't be able to sleep. I just felt like I needed to get this out.
So we're going to be switching readers now. Jessica's going to be reading for Rochelle because the poor thing is wheezing and dying from her pneumonia.
Friday, November 17th, 2017. For everyone asking, yes, I'm alive. I've been on the quiet side because there's something I'm trying to investigate and I'm not sure how to yet. I'd rather not tweet unless I have something substantial to share. It's also sort of hard to explain the logistics of what I'm trying to find out, but I'll do my best. Basically, there's a part of my apartment I'm just now learning about. At least that's what I think. To refresh your memory, I live in a duplex. I used to live on the first floor, and now I live on the second floor. It's a long, boxy building that looks like this. And the other week, I was tweeting the most recent update from the living room couch. About 30 seconds after I'd sent the last tweet, I heard a thump directly above my head, as if someone above me had dropped something on the floor, which is impossible since I'm in the top apartment.
Ugh.
There's also no way to access the roof. There aren't any ladders on the outside of the building. The only way you get on the roof is through a skylight in the hallway. There are no trees in the immediate vicinity either. It definitely wasn't pipes either. It was distinctly the sound of something falling to the floor. My building is old and makes lots of noises, but this was a new sound and it startled me.
Oh.
So I'm thinking, is there some secret crawl space in my home? I look all over my apartment, but I can't figure it out. So I go into the hallway, and that's when something dawns on me. There's no real way to ease into this, so I'll just say it. There's a mysterious hatch in my hallway. I've always known about it, but I just assumed it opened directly to the roof.
Oh.
It's really high above the stairs, so I always figured it was impossible to access without some sort of fancy professional ladder. I took this video so you can see how high it is.
Just like goes down.
Yeah,
all
it
the
does.
way.
I see that hatch every morning when I leave for work and think nothing of it. But this time something dawned on me. It can't lead to the roof because it's actually below the roof. I'm about to spring some simple math on you, so I apologize in advance. Oh, my poor brain. First, the skylight is flat with the roof. I checked Google Earth to make sure. The hatch is about 3 feet below the skylight, meaning there's about 3 feet of empty space between the two openings.
Got it.
I think maybe the hatch leads to a short ladder going to the roof, but even if that's the case, the hatch is level with all the ceilings in my apartment. That means there's 3 feet of empty space all over my apartment.
Oh, I
just
hate that.
Horrifying. Yeah. I was ready to explain this away for a few reasons. One, it might just be some sort of insulated space that all residential buildings have. I'm not an architect, so what do I know? It didn't seem relevant enough at the time, so I decided I wasn't going to mention it here. But over the past week and a half, I've been hearing more things above me. A few days after the first sound, I heard a similar thump while I was in the kitchen. Then last night, I heard something small clink to the floor and roll about 6 feet before stopping.
Oh.
Something is going on up there. Maybe it's a raccoon, but maybe it's not. I also can't get over the fact that the hatch is in such a weird, inaccessible place over the stairs. I need to investigate. I'm just not sure how right now. I guess I'll try to buy a long pole off Amazon to see if the hatch even moves. I might have to buy a construction ladder. At any rate, that's why I've been MIA for a minute. I'll keep you posted when I figure out how to get up there. Okay, I bought a pole. If the hatch is movable, either shell out for a ladder or call my landlord to investigate. So now we're on Tuesday, November 28th. A lot has happened in the last week, but I was away for Thanksgiving, so I'm just now about to write it all down. The noises from the ceiling haven't let up, but the pole I ordered didn't arrive before I had to leave for the holiday, so I didn't actually get it until late Friday night. I planned to investigate the next morning and went to bed. I'd barely fallen asleep when I woke up to an incredibly loud crash above me. It sounded like someone had dropped a bowling ball. I bolted upright in bed and immediately felt strange. There was a weird energy all around me. I can't explain it. After about a minute, I heard another crash. I briefly thought about grabbing my shoes and booking it, but that would mean passing under the hatch, and that seemed like a bad idea. So instead, I just listened and waited, though I'm not sure for what. The crash happened again and then again, probably 15 times in a row, followed by a long silence. Then I heard a smaller, creaky sound from the hallway. In my mind, I registered it as a footstep, but it really could have been anything. I stayed still, but there were no more sounds after that. I lay back down, still tense and nervous, but I must have fallen asleep at some point because I woke up the next morning and everything seemed normal again. I got dressed and left to go get a bagel, same as every Saturday. As I made my way down the stairs, something crunched under my feet. I looked down and noticed a pile of debris on the stairs directly under the hatch.
Ew.
It looked like dirt, but I couldn't tell for certain. It could have been old plaster or something. I glanced up at the hatch and noticed something else peculiar. The edge of something was caught in it, barely poking out. It's hard to see because it's so far up, but I took a photo. At that point, bagels were the last thing on my mind. I went back upstairs and grabbed the pole. I set my camera on the coat wardrobe at the top of the stairs and hit record, just to make sure it would be caught on video if a demon burst out of the latch. And then he has a video.
He is really hot.
So if anybody wants to follow along, it's on like Wakelet. You can just look up the true like Dear David full story, and it's a couple of links down just so you can watch the videos and look at the pictures.
I like that you can buy a pole like that on Amazon.
I know, just like a random pole.
Oh no,
Yeah.
something fell.
I think it's a shoe. Bye bye.
So in the video, he takes a really long pole and he just kind of like pokes the hatch, and something falls out.
I jumped out of the way and practically fell down the stairs trying to dodge whatever it was that fell. At first, I thought it was a dead squirrel, which would honestly explain a lot. It hit the steps and bounced down to the first floor. I went upstairs to get my phone and collapsed the pole since it's so long and unwieldy, then went back downstairs to investigate the object that fell. At first, I wasn't even sure what it was. It was a dingy, faded black. I picked it up and realized what it was. It was a small leather shoe.
It looks like it used to be black, you can tell, but it's like so faded, and it looks very old timey and very small.
Yeah, it looks like it's from like the Victorian age.
Yeah, very old timey.
I hustled back upstairs and texted my landlord. I told him I thought there was something in the crawl space and asked if he could investigate. He said he'd come by later with a ladder and check it out. A few hours later, my landlord was on a ladder, shining a flashlight into the crawl space. I stared up at him, half expecting something to grab him and yank him into the darkness. He angled his flashlight all around and finally saying, "There's nothing up here." But then he was like, "Oh, wait." I watched as he reached up into the emptiness with his free arm, and when he pulled it back, he had something small and round in his hand. He climbed down the ladder and handed it to me. Again, I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at. It was smooth and shiny, and at first I thought it was an old piece of candy, but it was cold and too heavy to be candy. After a second, I realized it was a marble.
Ooh.
It was so worn that it hadn't registered as a marble at first. Its shape was also sort of weird, with a little bump on one end. My landlord seemed unbothered for the most part. Okay, dude. And he told me to call him if I heard anything else. I went inside and headed to my office to see if I could figure anything out about this marble that somehow made its way into my ceiling. I had nothing to go on, and in short, I didn't really learn much, but I did figure out the bump on the marble, I think. Apparently in the early 1900s, they made marbles by hand and cut them with big metal scissors, which would mean the marble is probably really old, like the shoe. Anyway, now I have a decrepit old shoe and a marble sitting on my dresser. I guess this is the new normal. So that's Rochelle's second part on Dear David, and we kind of overestimated how long this would take. So she's gonna pick it up after Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the next episode will be a Christmas episode. It'll be Jessica and me. Jessica's going to be talking about Saint Nick, and I'm going to be talking about the second half of Josh Duggar. And then we'll get back into Dear David after that. And then hopefully by then, Rochelle's pneumonia will have cleared up and she won't be dying as she talks.
Okay, but the thing that I thought of when he was talking about the marble with like the flat dent is like his head has a flat dent in it.
Yeah.
Ew. I don't like that.
I hate that so much.
Okay, I have a joke.
All right. Yeah, let's do a joke. And then Rochelle will finish this after Christmas. And next episode we'll be putting out will be our Christmas episode.
Okay, so this joke is dark humor.
Okay.
Two hunters are out in the woods when one of them collapses. He doesn't seem to be breathing and his eyes are glazed. The other guy whips out his phone and calls the emergency services. He gasps, "My friend is dead. What can I do?" The operator says, "Calm down. I can help. First, let's make sure he's dead." There is a silence, then a shot is heard. Back on the phone, the guy says, "Okay, now what?"
That was a good one.
Kyle
I
shared
love
that with me.
I like that one. That was a good one.
Yep, definitely did.
Yep.
Oh goodness. Well, if you want more of us lovely ladies, you can find us on at historiesandmysteries.ca. We are also on Facebook and Instagram at Histories and Mysteries Podcast.
And if you'd like to rate and review us, we would be super appreciative of that.
That would be
And-
amazing.
What's the strangest thing you've ever found in your house?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Let us know.
All right. Well, we look forward to bringing you 2 new stories next week. Bye.
Bye.